Go, yeah, duh. But someone has asked what that means. So,
right. So if someone has asked it, someone else is wondering.
That's right. So we're going to run through that. Before we do, I want to give a quick plug to the Grub Guide.
Oh, yes.
The LivPortland Grub Guide is up on our YouTube channel, and Makayla and I have been visiting food trucks around the Portland metro area for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. We have been eating.
We have been eating
It's
and
a good
drinking.
time, yeah.
Usually there's a pint of beer involved. But yeah, we've had a good time with it and visited some really fun spots.
Yes, we have. So check it out. We really want to do it to not only highlight local food trucks that we love, but also to talk a little bit more about what's happening in the communities that we serve. So much about where you live is about your community and what you do and where you eat. So we want to bring awareness to that.
And it's funny because when I think of areas, 99% of the time there's restaurants or food trucks that pop into my head for those areas.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So like on my way to the studio here today, there are 2 or 3 bento spots here that are really good, actually. And there's a sushi place that I really, really enjoy. So anyways, go to the LivPortland YouTube page, subscribe. Please subscribe because you'll get all the new deets on all the stuff we're doing. And check out our Grub Guide because it's fun. It's really cool.
It is. And we do a lot of giveaways, but they are released in the episode, so you have to watch.
So with that, let's talk about some real estate terms that people struggle with.
Speed round.
Speed round. Why don't we go back and forth here? I will throw one at you to start with. Pre-approval versus pre-qualification.
Ooh, good one. So a pre-qualification is a term we actually don't hear as much anymore, but it's a basic estimate of what you can borrow based on unverified financial info. So this looks like a verbal conversation between somebody and a lender throwing, not exact figures out about what they earn and what their debt looks like. So that we take a pre-qualification super seriously when we're reviewing offers for a seller because they haven't truly gone through the full process yet. So what we do look for is a pre-approval.
Yeah, and there are different levels of pre-approvals. Yeah. If the lender has pulled the credit, that's great. Mm-hmm. If the lender has no other documents they need from the buyer, that's fantastic. And the ultimate end-all be-all is if there's underwriting approval on the file.
That's the thing we want to hear.
Yeah, if you got a pre-approval with underwriting approval on your file, you are ready to go and can probably close very, very quickly. Now, you still got to do your due diligence on the home. Probably still needs to be an appraisal, those type of things. But you are set as far as your financial status with getting a loan, which is always awesome. Yeah,
if you're going up against another offer and you're in underwriting and that other offer just has a pre-qual, you're going to get that offer accepted, more likely than not. If they're similar terms.
And if the listing brokers are on top of their game and read the...
Assuming it's an educated listing broker.
Number 2.
Contingent. People love to say contingent in the real estate world.
It's contingent on this or subject to that. Or what we see more often than contingent is bumpable. Contingent was kind of an old term, and people kind of get stuck on that. But bumpable is a status in RMLS, and people don't quite understand that. Bumpable means that as a seller, you've accepted an offer, but it's subject to the buyer getting their property sold that they're going to be taking the funds from to make the purchase on your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So that's what's called bumpable. In the meantime, you still get to have your home on the market. Everyone in the RMLS and online will be able to see that you're bumpable, which just means still available. But if you make an offer and we accept it, we're probably going to have to give 48 or 72 hours notice to that first position bumpable buyer.
Well said. And because people always ask this as well, we are seeing a lot of sales that are contingent or bumpable. So don't be afraid to enter into a situation where that needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Another one that people sometimes struggle with is just pending. What does pending mean? Can I still go see that home? No.
Everybody wants to make an offer once it's already pending.
Yeah. Or they've been looking for a home and it's the end-all be-all one that they want to see. And on their way over there, their broker gets the call saying, yeah, I'm sorry, we just accepted an offer. We're sale pending. Mm-hmm. And every time people ask, can we still see it? No.
No. Mr. and Mrs. Seller don't like that.
No, neither does buyer who just got their offer accepted.
Right, totally.
So-
If you've already seen the property and you didn't get a chance to put in an offer, but it already went pending, you can do what's called a backup offer, which means you're in the second position. So if anything does happen with that first position offer, you're automatically bumped into first position, but you can't make an offer and be as competitive as that other first position offer. They're already locked in.
Number 4.
Escrow.
Escrow.
People also like to talk about escrow. It's a California term. They say for
know
pending,
that.
they
Really?
say it's in escrow. It's in escrow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, instead of pending, they say escrow.
Which I kind of do like. It feels fancy, but it's taken from all of these selling sunset real estate reality TV shows.
Yeah, all the real estate shows.
And so it's funny when you can tell somebody's been watching those because they love to throw around escrow.
Yeah, here in Oregon, escrow means the company that's a third-party intermediary that collects all the documents and gets the closing statement together, provides the title insurance, those type of things. Can we give a plug out to the absolute best escrow officer?
I would love to.
Liza Wheeler at WFG Title, everyone. If you're refinancing your home, make sure you tell your lender you want to close with her. If you're working with a broker that's not Makayla or Joe, please be sure to say, hey, what do you think about WFG? If he doesn't have anyone or she doesn't have anyone, Liza Wheeler over at WFG is absolutely fantastic.
So in the state of Oregon, the selling agent gets to choose which company they close at with escrow. And we obviously choose Liza Wheeler every single time. But when we're representing buyers, we don't get to choose. And the difference in experience is insane.
It is
I'm
insane.
always so thankful when I get to work with her.
Number 5, appraisal.
Appraisal.
Appraisal can be a naughty word sometimes. Either the appraisal comes in low or whatever the case might be. But for those out there that are like, okay, what is an appraisal? An appraisal is what the lender, right? So you have a partner when you buy a home usually, unless you're paying cash. You have a partner in that, which is the company that's going to be paying the 70, 80, 90, or 95% of the property. And they want to know that the home is worth the price that you're paying for it. So they are going to hire a third-party, non-affiliated appraisal done by a licensed appraiser. And every now and again, those come in low, which we just had happen.
Rarely do they come in high.
Sometimes.
Really lame.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Sometimes, but only, like this home appraised for $1,000 more than our contract price. We're like, all right, we'll take it.
Nice.
But the low ones really do hurt.
Because then you got to renegotiate the whole thing. Is the seller going to take the hit, or is the buyer going to come up with more cash? How does this all work? That's kind of one of those things that appraisers are like, well, they're like everyone, Realtors,
They're just doing their job.
inspectors, home inspectors, mortgage brokers. It's a big group. There's some good ones. There's some bad ones. But most of them are really, really good. It's a difficult job. They're put in a difficult situation. But yeah, so that's the skinny on appraisals and appraisers.
And appraisal value is different than market value. So a lot of times we'll have sellers who will get an appraisal before they even speak with a broker to say, this is what the appraiser said the value is. And that's very different than what we would list the market value of the home for. So that's always an interesting conversation.
Right. So the difference there, and I think that's a great point, Makayla, the difference is when you have an independent appraisal done and you do it, a lot of times they'll go through a mortgage company. And if the appraiser thinks that you're doing it for a refinance, I don't know that this happens a lot, but I've seen it, and I guarantee you it still happens occasionally.
Yes.
If the appraisal is for a lender to loan you money, and they make more money if you get a bigger loan, guess what happens to the appraisal? It's higher, right? If the bank is loaning you money and they want an appraisal on a home that they're loaning money on, they want to know the absolute market value. And don't go high, Mr. Appraiser.
Right.
We want the real deal. And so in the appraisal report, there is a thing called market position. I think I see it named as sometimes, but just the market itself. Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Is it stable? What's it doing? And sometimes that'll affect, if an appraiser says, the values in this neighborhood in this area right now are declining. that means that everything is going to get skewed on the downward angle with that. And we are seeing some of that here in Portland where values are starting to come down a little bit in some areas.
Let's talk about assessed value.
Assessed value is another one. So everyone gets their taxes, right? The county says your home is worth X. We had a client whose home we had listed at 1.4, and the county had their assessed value at $2 million.
That was such a pain.
Yeah, that was not a good situation. And because of that, they were paying taxes that were egregiously high for the area, which caused the house to not sell. So that can be a problem. But assessed value is just what the county, the assessor, has designated the value of your home at. And that can change with, additions or sales or those type of things. On a lot of occasions, the county will see a sale and go, oh, we have it assessed for $533,000 and you just sold for $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Guess what? Your taxes are going up. So that's the situation with that. Yeah.
I think that's all I need to know about that.
Yeah. Tell me about earnest money.
Earnest money is the deposit that you make once your sale pending, going back. That amount is due within 3 business days from the buyer to show that you're serious about the purchase. And that amount is held in the neutral escrow account, and it is safe and protected until you get through all of your contingencies. But after you get through your contingencies, then your earnest money could be what we call on the line if anything were to happen with the sale.
Non-refundable.
Yes.
Typically, it's between 1% and 3%,
Of the purchase price?
Of the purchase price, yes. If we see anything below 1, we're definitely going to counter on that as a listing broker. And if we're representing a buyer in a competitive situation, we're going to push for 2 or 3%, right? Which is a lot of money, but
it applies towards your down payment. So it's basically like prepaying your down payment. A lot of times new buyers think that this is an additional cost,
right?
But it's not.
And if you have your inspection and you're like, oh, no, this doesn't work for us, or you can't get your financing, there are clauses in the agreement that say if you disapprove of the inspection or if your financing fails, earnest money to be returned. And usually what we tell people is the only way you can lose your earnest money is if we get past all the contingencies and you just decide that you're not going to buy the home.
Right. For no reason. And
we have had some seriously large earnest monies just forfeited. I think the biggest I've seen is $50K.
Oh my, that's a gut punch.
That is a gut punch.
But if for a contractual reason you have to back out, you'll get it back. We're usually able to negotiate that. Yeah. We had a buyer back out. It was a cash deal. They backed out the day of closing because of property condition. Because when I went to hand them the keys, the property was disgusting. There were new holes in the wall. There was an insane amount of furniture left behind.
Didn't the neighbor come out and say...
The neighbor came out.
Yeah, we can park anywhere we want, including on your property.
And was threatening the buyer. That was really bad. I was scared. I had Joe on speakerphone because I was like, I can't handle this alone. This is too scary. But we got the earnest money back.
We did get their earnest money back.
So go us.
Yeah, go us. Earnest money is one of those things that, that's a dicey thing because I have a situation right now on a transaction where the buyer's broker is well past the deadline for the inspection contingency. So they've accepted the property right now. It's a smaller home. The earnest money is only $3,000. But that's $3,000. Right. And so we still want to make the sale happen. So we're moving forward. But we don't have any agreement on this. And I'm perplexed as what this broker's doing, but those situations come up and you need to know the rules. Your broker needs to know the rules, and you need to ask questions about that if you're in a sale that starts to get a little bit squirrely. So
such a weird situation.
Yeah, really.
I feel like you taught me that on day 1 of Joe's real estate school.
Yeah, we teach on day 1 of real estate school, do not lose your client's money for them. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a good lesson. And you never have you?
Well learned. No. Okay. Should we talk about closing costs?
Yeah.
Fine.
I think people know what closing costs are, but everyone kind of doesn't figure in a lot of things like prorated taxes, reconveyance fees, recording fees, transfer taxes, all of that type of stuff. And closing cost is the financial stew of escrow. It all gets thrown in there. And then, 3, 4, 5, 6 days before closing, you get what's called a settlement statement, and that shows all of your cost. We will provide our clients with an estimated net proceeds, which is always a good thing to ask for. Is if you don't know how much you're going to net at closing, just ask your broker to get an estimated net proceeds sheet put together. And what that does, it'll show exactly what you're going to get from the sale. Usually I don't ask people about what they owe on their property. People know that, so I leave that out. I don't ask that question. But I give them what all the expenses are going to be, and then they can subtract what they owe on their mortgage and get that estimated net proceed.
Right.
Which is awesome. So closing costs can be daunting, but it's an easy one to figure out for brokers, so ask your broker about that.
Mm-hmm. And if you're financing, the lender will work with you on estimated closing costs due at closing at the time of your pre-qualification process. So you'll know. You're not going to get stuck with a giant bill right at the end.
Exactly. Title insurance.
This is a good one. It protects against issues like unpaid liens or ownership disputes. We don't deal with this too often, or disputes too often, but this is why we have insurance for these.
So unpaid liens are a big one, right? If someone had a bunch of work done on their home, never paid the contractor, a lien could be made against the home, and that's not good.
Right.
Because the lien stays with the home, not the owner. Title insurance is another reason why we highly, highly recommend Liza Wheeler at WFG, because when things do come across her desk that are, they could be these minute little sentences in this 50-page document, and she sees it. She always sees it and is like, okay, I'm going to give Joe a call. So she calls me and says, what do you think about that? And I'm like, I don't think that's good. Is it, Liza? And she's like, no, I didn't think you'd like that. So we talk about how to resolve it and what it means and how should, we present this to the client and that type of thing. And she does the same thing for the buyer's brokers on the other side too.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, your folks should be aware of this. But that's the type of professional that you want working your escrow file.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to homeowners associations, HOA. We did a whole podcast on this.
I think it was our last episode.
Could have been.
Last recording.
Yeah, HOAs are crazy complicated, a ton of information, reserve funds, maintenance fees, different amenities, CC&Rs, and the big one, assessments. It's just a whole big thing. And there's different HOAs. There's HOAs for neighborhoods, like the one I have in my neighborhood, and they take care of the front lawn and the common areas and all that type of stuff, and love it. It's great. The condos, they take care of the common areas, but they do a ton more. Board meetings, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's something you want to know about. You want to know the history of the HOA, and you want to be aware of what you're getting into. We cover that extensively in our last episode, so if you have questions on that, I think that's a good resource.
That is a great point. If you're interested in finding out more about an HOA, turn on the last pod, and we'll fill you up with some HOA knowledge.
Good fun.
Yeah, good fun.
Dual agency.
So in Oregon, it's legal with the proper disclosures for your listing broker to also represent the buyer in a transaction. And that broker owes both sides honesty and fair dealings. They need to hold your secrets close, but they also need to hold the buyer's secrets close. And it makes a very awkward situation sometimes. Some brokers like to do it.
Yeah.
Other brokers do not. I'm leaning towards the do not. And whenever we have these situations where we have an unrepresented buyer interested in one of Makayla and I's listings, what we'll typically do is one of us will drop out of the listing, meaning we'll remove ourselves from the listing and then just go represent the buyer exclusively.
That way we're completely separately dealing with the clients, and we can truly keep their secrets.
But then it pits me against you.
I know, and it's a battle.
Battle royale.
That's when what you've taught me about negotiating really comes into play.
Yeah, and you like to just Show me how much you know, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Oh, jeez. Thank you.
This next one, back in 2008 to 2010, was the hottest of all hot topics. And I'm so glad that you never had to go through that market.
So sad.
What were you, like 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did the math real quick. 2008 was brutal because of all the short sales, which means that a home and a homeowner are trying to get their property sold, but it's worth less than what they owe. Tough situation.
Really tough situation.
Yeah, really sad situation too. Back in 2008, 2010, they used to have companies that did nothing but negotiate short sales. So I would get a listing that was a short sale. We would hire a company to represent the seller to negotiate the short sale with the lender and all of the other people that were owed money on the home.
Oh, wow.
And then when we got a buyer, the buyer and the seller had to agree to be bound by what happened with the intermediary.
Oh, so they had to agree that other people were going to negotiate on their behalf.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a hot, steamy mess.
Yeah. And how did you ever get paid from that?
It was a lot less. It was a lot less because,
that's a big, fat bummer.
Those companies that are like, okay, I'm taking $100,000 where this person owes me $300,000. You, Mr. Broker, are going to take less as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we don't get to share when they're taking their full amount. I guess we do a little bit, but
yeah.
Anyways, it's not a good thing to be in a short sale, but we may see more of those in the future if values drop considerably, or if, something black swan event happens where all of a sudden it's not a good real estate environment and people get underwater. So been there, done that. If it comes to that, we'll be ready to help people. But at the same time, I just don't ever want to go back to that. Number 14, underwriting.
Underwriting. Well, we already talked about this, but that's okay.
Yeah, we did.
It is the final loan approval process. Mm-hmm. It's when lenders review your income, credit, and property before giving the green light to fund your mortgage.
But what is underwriting? Like, I've had people ask me, who are we talking about? Who is this here?
I know, it's the faceless, nameless people.
The faceless, nameless people that you never get to meet that hold your future home ownership in their hands. Right?
Rightfully very intense.
They are very intense. And you'll hear your mortgage broker say, well, it's on the underwriter's desk. Okay.
They always have so much on their desk.
Right. It's the top file on their desk right now.
Because that's
sure
how
it is. Sure it is.
I picture, because of that language, I picture someone in an office, like an underwriter, like writing as fast as they can with just files and files and files on their desk.
I don't think it's far off that.
It has to be. Right. Nobody works like that anymore.
The underwriter is the final person for the lending company to say, yeah, we're good. The underwriter has a checklist for the mortgage brokers and the lenders that is, depending on your situation, depending on the loan, there could be some wild things that they ask for, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? If it's FHA, VA's got a big long list. But all those boxes need to be checked. And sometimes it goes against common sense. And I wish I had a good example off the top of my head. But I can tell you, sometimes the things they ask for, it's like verification of employment.
Right. That's a big one.
That's a big one. Well, I just got a new job. Well, I need to talk to your boss. I'm the boss for this region. No, I need to talk to your boss. And it goes to back to New York or Boston or something like that, and goes into this swirling mess of someone will get back to you soon. And it just is okay, this person's making $500,000 a year and they're well qualified, right. And you're worried
Seen their
that
pay stubs.
They're whoever they're reporting to can't tell you that.
Right. Like they're lying for some reason.
Let's go ahead and look at the website.
Right.
Let's go ahead and, here's their business card. But it's for a reason.
It's all part of the process.
They must have got burned many times before. Who knows?
One thing I thought was weird when we just did this is because they had our version of pay stubs, and then they had screenshots of our bank account. I had to sign a document saying that the amount just in my account was directly from my dispersed commission. I had to identify each payment with the property that I sold. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But again, I get it.
Yeah. It's there for a reason. And, mortgage brokers, the good ones, have patience like Mother Teresa.
Oh, they should.
Yeah. We're waiting for this. Yeah. Yeah, it is frustrating, of course. You know, I feel like we're on a psychiatrist's couch or something, them telling us it's going to be all right. Underwriting's going to get it done. And you're like, it's a week past when we needed it.
It's going to fall out.
That's underwriting. Number 15, days on market. That's a big one.
It is. A lot of people don't know about it, you know, if they're new in the market.
Yeah, if they're new in the market or first-time home buyers, I think that's kind of an eye-opener. But when people dial into it, boy, do they look at that number hard.
Fixate on the days on market. Well, that home's been on the market for 44 days. There's no way I'm making a full price offer. And then poor seller, on the other end, they're counting the days.
Yeah.
Waking up in dread.
Yeah. It used to be that anything over, remember in 21, 22, where it was like anything that was past a week or 2 weeks on the market, you're like, wow, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that home.
I swear, anything on the market longer than 10 days, I didn't think it was a good home.
We now have one of the nicest homes we've ever represented in the 650 to 700,000 price range. Awesome home. Incredible neighborhood, amazing home, very well cared for, great improvements. And it's been on the market 42 days now.
Right.
And it's like, what do you say to the homeowners?
We don't know
it's
why.
like, well, we kind of do. The market's really crazy right now.
But it's just confusing because other homes on the street that are in worse condition have already sold. So, and we haven't gotten feedback as to why.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just buyer's choice. They choose because they choose, you know. But days on market is a big one. The other thing that I want to say about this is, you know, we get asked by our sellers all the time, can you talk to Zillow?
Oh, yeah.
And have them, you know, we're going to relist it because we want the days on market to go away. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Have you ever tried calling up Zillow?
No, I haven't.
They don't care.
I'd rather put a nail through my foot. No, they don't care, though.
I agree.
They do not care. So that's our 15.
Okay. Good stuff, Joe.
Yeah.
I think understanding this terminology helps you stay educated in a competitive market. Even in not a competitive market, it's good to know what these terms mean.
Yeah, and if you have some terms that you want us to go over with you or let you know, go get in the remarks on YouTube and let us know, and we'll get you some feedback on that. But as always, you can go to LivPortland.com, LivPortland.com, and we have buyer resource books, seller resource books that go through every step of the process for both buyers and sellers, and has terms and nice little helpful stories about different things and how to understand the marketplace. So feel free to visit liveportland.com. You can see our blog there. Podcasts are all there. You can always check us out on anywhere that provides podcasts, but also on YouTube if you want to see us in person.
Live in the studio.
Live in the studio. We appreciate you being here, and reach out if there's anything we can do. In the meantime, thank you, Makayla.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. If you're interested in finding out more about Joe, myself, or the Live Portland team, you can go to liveportland.com. Thanks for giving us a listen, and see you next time on the Off the Record podcast.